Oh well, welcome, ladies and gents. The ever shaping, shifting saga of DC under Warner Brothers Discovery, and them attempting to try to find their Kevin Feige type is ever shifting and changing. We've got a new update. Last we heard, Dan Lin was rumoured to be in talks. I mean, he was in talks. These things don't, it's not like a mystery how these things come out. But yeah, so he was in talks. That's all fallen apart. It's not happening. So David Zaslav is back to square one, it would appear. This actually first came to us from CNBC. Report that Dan Lin will not be taking charge of Warner Brothers Discovery's DC Films and Television unit. Everyone thought he would be a lock, but negotiations broke down and a deal wasn't reached. Not good. I don't know whether he would have been particularly a good pick, realistically. I got no real thoughts on that, to be fair. But it's not good that we're this far into their hunt, because they've been doing it for some time, and you still can't get someone. It's not a good look. So Warner Brothers stock have dropped by 50% since the studio merged with Discovery, and CEO David Zaslav has made getting the messy DC Extended Universe under control a top priority, because there's a staying power there, ladies and gents. There is a significant amount of money that you can make, to be made, just sitting on the table for a universe which they just have no direction with, and you could easily tap that for money. It's a gold mine, just start tapping it, but they are unable to. It's a rudderless ship at this point. Now, Dan Lin seemed like a natural fit as a major DC Comics fan, responsible for producing hits like the Lego Movie and It, but he decided to stay at Rideback, his own film and TV company. Now, the interesting thing is, the biggest issue itself was actually how his ownership of his own company would factor into the deal, and how Warner Brothers Discovery planned to compensate him. Lin hoped to keep Rideback operational with an equity stake owned by his potential new employers, but talks became bogged down. So Zaslav previously approached the former 20th Century Studios boss Emma Watts about the role, but she passed, and he even met personally with Lin to try and convince him to take over the DCEU, but it is now said to be speaking to several other candidates. Now, we've got a seemingly better article anyway from Deadline. So Dan Lin won't lead DC Comics film and TV unit. So, I mean, this is all centered around his own company. So Dan Lin is not going to take the DC job. After all, back to the drawing board for David Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery. I'd love to, I should have checked, but I'd love to see what the stock's doing based on this. So this first hit on CNBC, which put a spin that Lin rejected the offer. Others in the studio sphere say different. I mean, look, it's literally just that conversations are broken down. Bottom line, Lin is staying at his Rideback company. So Warner Brothers Discovery's film studio has been going through a lot of shaking up, most recently with the exit of Courtney Valenti, and they will try to find a big name to turn DC into something more than it is, something more akin to superhero rival Marvel. When Deadline first broke word that Lin was the choice the studio zeroed in on, he was once a tenured exec at the studio and oversaw its Lego film franchise. We said there would be a lot of hurdles to overcome. So what are the hurdles? Again, it's all to do with his own company, Rideback. So Rideback has a deal at Universal. Right. So Warner Brothers would have had to fold Rideback within the studio or work something else out. That seems to be where the discussion hits the rocks. So they couldn't find a way to make this work. At the time Deadline revealed his courtship, studio sources maintained that no offer had been made. So Dan Lin's Rideback has a deal at Universal. Warner Brothers themselves would have to try to get Rideback into their studio, essentially. So they had to offer Dan Lin an offer, obviously, the job, money, etc. But then they also had to offer Rideback a job as well, essentially. So there's no kind of conflict of interest there, presumably. But it seems like a really silly thing to, break down communication over. To me, it does. Anyway, like, I understand it, but there are ways around this, and it seems like they just kind of hit a brick wall. Probably on money, quite frankly. Probably on the financial aspect. So DC remains under the thumb of Mike DeLuca, who probably would be the dream choice to run this business if he and Pam Abdi weren't tasked with running the whole studio. Where that leaves Walter Hamada also remains to be seen. So that's the other thing. Walter Hamada's still there at the moment. DC has a lot of stuff to figure out, including whether the public at large believes or cares the studio spin on The Flash that Ezra Miller is getting help and turning this into a mental health issue. Given the long list of troubling spats Miller has gotten into, we'll have to see how this crisis PR manoeuvring impacts the movie when it premieres next year. However, again, as this article notes, don't be surprised if Miller does 1 or 2 TV appearances or lengthy interviews, basically, to get sympathetic profiling going. He's trying to rehab his image. Studio's in a tough place. They've got a $200 million film that apparently is a winner. I've covered that. I've done leaks all over The Flash. But I mean, this what a big roadblock to kind of come into. That, you know, Dan Lin, Ryback's got a deal at Universal. You could just give him a deal if you really want him. Just give him a deal. This seems to be one of the key issues with Warner Brothers on a whole. Like, there's rumours of getting Henry Cavill back, but you've got to offer him loads of stuff. He also wants a bit of creative control because he's not happy that, you know, how those movies have gone. But then, you know, there's rumours that he is coming back. But then before that, there were rumours that that's all broken down because they just couldn't offer it to him. This seems to be a consistently recurring theme with Warner Brothers, and I understand it to a certain degree, is that they don't want to relinquish power or pay too much money because DC as a subset of Warner Brothers isn't hugely profitable. I know that'll annoy a lot of people, but in the grand scheme of what it could be versus what it is, it's just not. And yeah, they've had some amazing hits. One of the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, Joker, right? Like madness, absolutely madness stuff. But they could be better. It could be more. And that's what they're thinking, presumably, when they're trying to relinquish power over to other people or controlling financial stakes, etc. So obviously that would factor into the deal with Lin and Ryback themselves. Is like, well, how much do we have to pay this guy? How much then do we have to pay Ryback to get a deal with us? Is it worth it? Maybe not. Now, there was rumour that they were trying to court Todd Phillips, you know, the Joker director. I haven't heard any more about that, but there was rumour that was happening. Not a bad choice. But anyway, love to hear your thoughts. Take care.